Ramakien, the Cambodian epic of gods and demons in the heart of ancient Cambodia, where the golden spires of Angkor once touched the heavens and the whispers of the gods lingered in the jungle breeze. There was born a tale that would outlast empires, a tale of love, duty, and the eternal struggle between light and darkness. This is the story of Ramakien, the Khmer epic that breathes with the soul of Cambodia, rooted in the Indian Ramayana, yet transformed by Khmer belief. It speaks not only of battles between gods and demons, but of the balance between compassion and righteousness, power and humility, destiny and free will. It is a story where divine beings walk among mortals, where the jungles hum with spirits, and where heroes must confront not only their enemies, but their own hearts. The tale begins in a time when the heavens were restless, when the world awaited the birth of one who would restore harmony to all realms, a prince destined to face the demon king of Lanka and reclaim the balance of dharma. From the shimmering celestial palaces of the gods to the shadowed citadel of demons beneath the sea, from the sacred temples of Ayodhya to the serene forests of Indra's domain, Ramakien unfolds as both legend and moral truth, a mirror of the human spirit, eternal in its beauty and sorrow. Chapter 1: The origin of Ayodhya and the summoning of Preah Ream in the heart of the Khmer lands. Along the majestic Mekong River, there lay the ancient kingdom of Ayodhya, known for its golden temples, lush forests, and the wisdom of its kings. The kingdom prospered under the rule of King Dasarath, a just and noble ruler, beloved by his people. The temple's spires glimmered in the sunlight, and the chant of monks echoed through the jungle, a song of peace and devotion. Yet, peace is fragile. In the distant realm of darkness, across stormy rivers and shadowed forests, Preah Ream, a 10-headed demon king, plotted to seize the lands of men. His palace of obsidian rose atop jagged cliffs along the Mekong tributaries, and his armies of serpents, ogres, and spirits of the forest grew in number, fueled by sorcery and malice. Hearing of this threat, the sages of Ayodhya gathered in the royal hall, meditating and chanting sacred mantras. They called upon Preah Ream, the prince born of divine will, trained in the arts of warfare, wisdom, and dharma. The heavens trembled as a golden light descended upon the palace, marking the prince as the chosen protector of the kingdom. Preah Ream, son of King Dasarath, possessed strength, courage, and a heart devoted to dharma. Beside him stood Preah, his loyal brother, whose valor in battle matched his devotion to family. Together, they would face the darkness that threatened the Mekong lands, guided by the blessings of the gods of Khmer lore. Preah Indra, the king of heavens, Preah Narayan, the preserver, and Preah Prom, the creator. Meanwhile, in the forests near Angkor, a troop of celestial monkeys stirred. Among them was Hanuman, the white monkey general, blessed with divine strength and cunning. Hearing the call of dharma, he vowed to aid Preah Ream, for the fate of the land and the people rested upon the alliance of men, gods, and forest spirits. At dawn, Preah Ream received his bow, carved from sacred wood, strung with threads, blessed by the priests, with Sita, daughter of a neighboring kingdom, and Hanuman. They prepared for the journey that would take them through dense jungles, across rivers swollen with rain, and into the very heart of Lanka, the fortress of darkness. The first challenge loomed: to unite the people of the kingdom and rally the monkeys, warriors, and spirits. With courage and the voice of Dharma, Preah Ream declared, "Let all who cherish virtue stand with me." Darkness will not claim these lands while our hearts are steadfast. The rivers, the forests, and the people themselves shall rise to defend Dharma. From the banks of the Mekong to the temples of Angkor, the citizens, soldiers, and mystical creatures heeded the call. Preparations began for a journey that would be sung for centuries, a journey of courage, loyalty, and devotion, a saga that would shape the destiny of Cambodia itself. Thus began the epic of Preah Ream, the chosen hero of the Khmer lands, whose destiny intertwined with gods, demons, and the eternal power of Dharma. Chapter 2: The Demon King's Wrath and the Trials of Ayodhya. The calm of Ayodhya was shattered as the sky darkened above the Mekong River, an omen of the approaching wrath of Preah Ream, the 10-headed demon king. From his obsidian fortress, hidden deep within the jungles beyond the Tonle Sap, he had watched the rise of Preah Ream, the prince chosen by the gods to protect the Khmer lands. His pride wounded and his ambition ignited, Preah Ream summoned his armies of ogres, serpents, and shadow spirits, instructing them to march upon Ayodhya and seize the Princess Saida, the jewel of the kingdom. King Dasarath convened the council of elders, priests, and generals. The royal hall shimmered with incense smoke and candlelight, each flicker reflecting the anxiety etched upon the faces of the ministers. "The demon gathers his forces," said the chief priest, his voice trembling with concern, "and his magic will test the very hearts of our people. Preah Ream must rise to the challenge, but even he will face trials that will question his courage, wisdom, and devotion to Dharma." Preah Ream, standing tall in the golden courtyard, tightened his grip on his divine bow, strung with threads blessed by the gods of Khmer legend. Beside him, Preah Lak, his devoted brother, prepared his twin swords, their blades gleaming like the Mekong under the morning sun. Hanuman leaped among the treetops of the palace gardens, his white fur glistening eyes sharp with anticipation, ready to defend the realm with unmatched strength and cunning. As night fell, the forests of Ayodhya stirred with unnatural shadows. The demons moved silently, their grotesque forms slipping through the dense foliage, spreading fear and confusion among the villagers. Villagers fled to the fortified walls of the city, clutching their children and sacred relics, praying to the gods for protection. Lanterns were lit along the streets, their warm glow a fragile barrier against the encroaching darkness. Preah Ream knew that courage alone would not be enough. The trials demanded strategy, wisdom, and unity. He called upon the people of Ayodhya to stand together, not merely as soldiers, but as guardians of Dharma itself. "We fight not for wealth, nor for power," he declared, his voice echoing across the palace terraces. "We fight for justice, for the people, and for the light that guides our hearts. Stand with me, and let the courage of Ayodhya shine through every shadow." The first trial came swiftly. A river of dark magic, conjured by Preah Ream himself, rose along the city gates, turning the waters of the Mekong black as ink. Illusions of monstrous serpents and shadow warriors filled the currents, attempting to drown the courage of Preah Ream's forces. Hanuman leaped from roof to roof, rallying the monkeys, who attacked the phantoms with acrobatic precision, tearing through the illusions with roars that echoed like thunder across the riverbanks. Preah Ream and Preah Lak guided their archers and soldiers, each arrow striking true, not merely against the bodies of demons, but the dark intent that fueled them. The first wave of attacks tested the resolve of Ayodhya's citizens. Yet each family, each soldier, and each mystical ally resisted fear, demonstrating loyalty and bravery. The river of illusions eventually receded, leaving the city battered but unbroken. But Krungrap's wrath was far from spent. From the forests beyond the Tonal Sap, he sent forth a brigade of serpent demons, their coils as thick as the trunks of ancient trees, their eyes glowing with malice. They descended upon the outskirts of Ayodhya, destroying villages and scattering livestock, attempting to weaken the morale of the people. Saida, though confined within the palace for her safety, showed courage that inspired all. She organized the healers, priests, and women of the court, ensuring the wounded were tended to, supplies secured, and prayers chanted to sustain the city's spirit. Her unwavering faith became a beacon, strengthening Preah Ream and his allies as they faced wave after wave of demonic assaults. The princes were called to their first personal trials. Preah Vikara, the eldest, faced visions conjured by Krungrap's sorcery, illusions of his city falling, of his parents in danger, and of failure in his hands. Only by trusting his wisdom and remaining calm did he pass through, learning that courage must always be tempered with discernment. Preah Chandara's test was of physical valor. He was set against a horde of shadow beasts that forced him to fight relentlessly, teaching him endurance and the importance of protecting others, even at great personal risk. Preah Surya, the youngest, faced puzzles of cunning and trickery, learning to rely on intellect, resourcefulness, and the guidance of his companions to survive. After 3 days and nights of relentless attacks, the forces of Ayodhya, strengthened by the trials, stood ready to confront Krungrap's army in full. Preah Ream, his bow glowing with divine energy, raised his hand, signaling unity and resolve. Hanuman leaped high, his roar carrying across the city and into the hearts of the warriors, monkeys, and citizens alike. As the first light of dawn touched the golden rooftops, Krungrap's army surged forth from the forests, their shadows stretching long and menacing across the land. Yet Ayodhya's defenders, guided by virtue, courage, and dharma, met them without fear. Each trial, each challenge had prepared them for this moment. The clash of swords, the flight of arrows, and the acrobatic strikes of the monkey army created a symphony of battle, one that would be remembered in chants, murals, and songs for generations. In the distance, atop the cliffs of Lanka, Krungrap's 10 heads hissed and roared, watching the battle unfold. His wrath was immense, but he had underestimated the strength born of virtue, unity, and faith. Ayodhya, tested in fire, shadow, and fear, had proven its resilience. By the end of the second day, the first wave of demons was repelled. Though the trials had only just begun, Preah Ream knew that courage, loyalty, and dharma were their true weapons, and that the strength of Ayodhya's heart would determine the outcome of the wars to come. The people, warriors, and allies rested briefly, their spirits undiminished, knowing that the trials of Ayodhya had forged them into a force that no darkness could easily overcome. And so, the epic of Preah Ream and the kingdom of Ayodhya continued, a story of valor, devotion, and the eternal struggle between light and shadow, destined to shape the destiny of Cambodia itself. Chapter 3: The Journey into the Forests and the Allies of Ayodhya. With the first wave of Krungrap's dark forces repelled, Ayodhya still bore the scars of the demon king's wrath. Villages were burned, forests scorched, and the people weary from the endless trials. Yet in the heart of the kingdom, courage and resolve burned brighter than ever. Preah Ream, aware that the threat was far from over, called upon his most loyal companions and allies to embark on a journey into the dense forests of Cambodia, where the forces of darkness had regrouped. The forests surrounding Ayodhya were ancient and mystical. Towering diptero carp trees formed canopies so dense that sunlight barely touched the mossy floor, and vines twisted like serpents along the trunks. Hidden within were spirits of the forest, some benign, others mischievous or dangerous. Rivers wound through the undergrowth, their waters clear but deceptive, with currents that could sweep the unprepared away. It was into this realm that Preah Ream led his companions. Hanuman, the mighty white monkey general, moved ahead with a troop of his kin, scouting paths and alerting the army to hidden dangers. His keen senses detected traps set by demons and signs of magical disturbances, enabling Preah Ream to navigate safely. The prince's brothers, Preah and the young princes, followed closely, learning the ways of the forest, listening to Hanuman's wisdom, and understanding that true heroism demanded not only bravery but knowledge of one's surrounding. As they traveled, the first allies of Ayodhya revealed themselves. From the tonal sap wetlands, Garuda spirits emerged, majestic bird-like creatures with golden feathers and piercing eyes, willing to lend their strength and aerial guidance. They warned of demon patrols and aided the forces by scouting from above. From the high cliffs near Angkor, Naga serpents swam through rivers, forming barriers to protect supply lines and striking at any shadow that threatened to advance unnoticed. Even the villagers who had fled the initial attacks now joined the journey, providing food, intelligence, and the enduring spirit of resilience. Their first trial in the forest came in the form of the River of Whispering Shadows, a wide, slow-moving waterway that shimmered unnaturally under the moonlight. The river seemed alive, whispering fears into the minds of those who approached, visions of defeat, betrayal, and despair. Soldiers faltered, and even the bravest warriors felt doubt creeping into their hearts. Preah Ream stood firm, raising his divine bow. "Fear is a tool of darkness," he proclaimed. "We will not be swayed. Our hearts are guided by dharma. Our purpose is clear, and our unity is unbreakable. Step forward, all of Ayodhya, and let courage be your or." With Preah Ream's guidance, each ally faced visions conjured by the river. Preah Vakara, eldest of the princes, confronted illusions of the city in ruins, learning that foresight and wisdom could guide action. Preah Chandara faced spectral warriors that challenged his valor, teaching him endurance and the protection of others. Preah Surya solved riddles posed by spirits in the currents, understanding the importance of intellect and observation. Hanuman, with his troop, leaped across the water, breaking the illusions and guiding the army safely to the opposite bank. After crossing the river, the group reached the forest of echoing roars, a dense region where the cries of beasts and demons multiplied unnaturally, designed to confuse and terrorize travelers. It was here that the army faced ambushes from shadow demons skilled in deception. Preah Ream and Preah coordinated defenses, while Hanuman and the monkeys launched counterattacks, their acrobatics and strength turning the tide of skirmishes. The citizens and soldiers fought valiantly, discovering courage within themselves that they had never known before. As they progressed, alliances strengthened. Garuda spirits shared aerial reconnaissance, Naga serpents protected the rivers, and mystical forest guardians guided lost travelers. These encounters taught the young princes that strength was not only in battle, but in trust, cooperation, and understanding the gifts of those around them. Preah Ream frequently reminded them, a kingdom's might lies not in the arms of one hero, but in the unity of all who fight for dharma. Days turned into nights as the army moved deeper into the shadowed forests. They encountered magical creatures, both friendly and hostile, and navigated terrain that would have challenged even the most experienced warriors. Preah Ream's leadership, combined with Hanuman's guidance and the loyalty of the allied forces, allowed the group to remain unbroken despite the mounting dangers. At last, after navigating rivers, cliffs, and enchanted groves, they arrived at the demon outpost of Lanka's shadows, a dark encampment filled with demonic scouts and warlocks plotting further attacks on Ayodhya. Here, the allies paused, gathering intelligence and preparing for the confrontation that would determine the future of the kingdom. The trial of the forests had not only tested their strength, but also forged bonds of loyalty, courage, and wisdom that would prove vital in the battles yet to come. Preah Ream looked upon his companions, soldiers, citizens, mystical allies, and his sons, and spoke with quiet determination. We have passed the trials of the forests. We have faced fear, deception, and darkness, but the greatest challenge awaits. Let our hearts remain steadfast, for the light of Dharma will guide us, and together, Ayodhya will prevail. Thus, the journey through the forests of Cambodia became a testament to the unity of men, gods, and mystical creatures, a story of courage and loyalty that would inspire generations to come. The trials of Ayodhya had begun in earnest, and the epic of Preah Ream continued to unfold across rivers, temples, and jungle canopies, weaving a saga of divine heroism in the heart of Cambodia. Chapter 4: The Siege of Lanka and the Battle of Heroes deep within the heart of Cambodia's dense forests. Beyond the winding tributaries of the Mekong and the sacred groves of Angkor lay the dark fortress of Lanka, stronghold of the 10-headed demon king, Preah Ream. Its black towers pierced the sky, shrouded in dark clouds that glimmered with unnatural lightning. The fortress was surrounded by rivers of enchanted water and walls that shimmered with spells, designed to deter even the bravest warriors. Preah Ream and his allies approached cautiously, moving through the forest with the guidance of Hanuman and the mystical creatures who had joined their cause, scouting the terrain and reporting the movements of the demon scouts. Naga serpents patrolled the riverbanks, their massive coils acting as sentinels to protect the supply lines. Every step forward was fraught with peril, as shadows moved unnaturally and whispers of fear attempted to unsettle the soldiers and citizens alike. As the army reached the outskirts of Lanka, Preah Ream unleashed his first wave of defense, the Serpents of Shadow. Monstrous, naga-like creatures that rose from the black waters surrounding the fortress. Their scales glinted with an eerie green luminescence, and their fangs dripped venom that could paralyze a mortal instantly. The first clash of battle erupted with a thunderous roar as arrows of divine energy struck the serpents, and Hanuman led his troop of monkeys in acrobatic assaults, tearing through the monstrous ranks. Preah Vikara and Preah Chandara, the sons of Preah Ream, displayed valor and skill, coordinating the defense lines and attacking with precision. The young Preah Surya, clever and observant, identified weak points in the enemy formations, guiding his brothers and soldiers to exploit them. Even amidst chaos, the princes began to learn the lessons of leadership, courage tempered by wisdom, strategy guided by virtue, and strength rooted in unity. Meanwhile, inside Lanka, Krungreep prepared his elite warriors, shadow ogres, fire-breathing demons, and sorcerers capable of conjuring illusions to confuse and disorient the enemy. From the fortress towers, they unleashed fiery projectiles and dark magic, threatening to engulf Ayodhya's allies in flames and fear. But Preah Ream, his bow glowing with divine energy, struck down the projectiles with precise arrows, each shot infused with the blessings of the Khmer gods. Hanuman, leaping from tree to tree and roof to roof, disrupted the demon ranks, tearing gates and scattering their formations. His roar echoed across the battlefield, rallying the monkeys, soldiers, and villagers alike. Side by side, Preah Ream and Preah Lak engaged in combat with the elite warriors, their swords and bows cutting through darkness while their hearts remained steadfast in dharma. As the battle continued, Krungreep unleashed the demon sorcerer Maharaja, whose dark incantations sent illusions and twisted shadows across the field. Soldiers faltered, haunted by visions of destruction and despair. The young princes faced trials within the battle itself. Preah Vikara saw the city burning. Preah Chandara faced visions of defeated allies. And Preah Surya confronted puzzles of strategy that seemed impossible to solve. Only by relying on their virtues, trust in each other, and the guidance of Hanuman and Preah Ream did they overcome the illusions and continue fighting. The tide of battle shifted when the allies of Ayodhya, strengthened by courage and unity, struck at the heart of the fortress defenses. Garuda spirits swooped down from above, disrupting the demon formations with precise aerial attacks. Naga serpents constricted river passages, preventing reinforcements from arriving. Citizens and soldiers, inspired by the leadership of Preah Ream and his sons, pressed forward with renewed determination. Finally, Preah Ream confronted Krungreep atop the fortress walls. The Demon King, 10 heads, twisting in fury, unleashed waves of dark energy. Preah Ream, drawing upon the strength of the gods and his unwavering devotion to dharma, fired arrows imbued with divine light. Each arrow struck true, breaking the defenses and forcing the Demon King into retreat. The combined efforts of his sons, Hanuman, and the allied forces ensured that Krungreep's army was scattered, and the fortress of Lanka lay exposed but not yet fully conquered. As the sun set over the Mekong and the forests of Cambodia, the survivors of Ayodhya regrouped within the fortress walls. Though victorious in the battle, they knew the war was far from over. Krungreep remained alive, and his sorcery and cunning could not be underestimated. Yet the siege had proven that courage, unity, and dharma were stronger than darkness. And the young princes had begun to emerge as true heroes, learning the lessons of leadership, wisdom, and sacrifice in the heat of battle. Preah Ream addressed his companions and allies. This fortress is only the beginning. Krungreep's power is great, but the strength of Ayodhya, the courage of its people, the loyalty of its allies, and the devotion of our hearts is greater. Let this victory remind us that light will always overcome shadow when hearts are steadfast in dharma. The allies of Ayodhya prepared for the next phase of their campaign. They repaired the fortress, tended to the wounded, and strengthened their defenses. The young princes reflected on the trials they had faced, understanding that heroism required more than strength. It demanded courage, wisdom, patience, and unwavering devotion to virtue. Thus, the siege of Lanka became a defining moment in the epic of Preah Ream. It was a story of bravery, strategy, loyalty, and divine guidance set in the mystical forests and rivers of Cambodia, a testament that the forces of light and virtue could stand against the darkest powers. The epic of Ramakien continued, weaving a saga that would be remembered for generations as the tale of Cambodia's courage, resilience, and enduring spirit. Chapter 5: The Rescue of Sita and the Crossing of the Mekong. The fortress of Lanka, though partially subdued, still held within its obsidian walls the beloved Sita, the princess of Ayodhya, whose beauty and virtue were unmatched in all the Khmer lands. Her capture by Preah Ream, the 10-headed demon king, had been the spark that ignited the epic struggle between light and darkness. Preah Ream knew that liberating her would not only restore the heart of the kingdom, but also strengthen the resolve of all who fought for dharma. The army of Ayodhya gathered on the banks of the Mekong River, its currents swollen from the monsoon rains, reflecting the deep gray of storm-laden skies. Crossing this mighty river would not be simple. The waters were home to Naga serpents loyal to Preah Ream and enchanted currents designed to sweep intruders into unseen depths. Preah Ream and his sons, Preah Vikara, Preah Chandara, and Preah Surya, prepared their forces, while Hanuman led a squadron of monkeys to scout and secure the safest passage. Before crossing, Preah Ream addressed his allies. The Mekong is no ordinary river. It tests not only the strength of our arms, but the clarity of our hearts. Fear will turn its waters against you. Courage, guided by dharma, will allow us to reach the other side. His words, steady and resolute, bolstered the spirits of soldiers and civilians alike, reminding them that this was a battle for virtue as much as for life. The army embarked on a series of rafts and vessels, each reinforced by magical wards and prayers, chanted by priests of Ayodhya. As they moved into the river's swirling currents, shadowy figures emerged, serpentine creatures with eyes like burning embers, their coils threatening to crush the rafts. Preah Chandara led the defense against these attacks, his twin swords striking with precision, felling the monsters before they could reach the vessels. Meanwhile, Preah Vikara used his divine bow to strike at lurking demons along the riverbanks, each arrow flying with the guidance of the gods. Preah Surya, clever and quick, devised strategies to counter the traps set by Preah Ream's sorcerers, floating illusions, sudden whirlpools, and magical barriers that sought to separate the army and sow confusion. With careful coordination, the army navigated these dangers, moving steadily across the Mekong's treacherous expanse. High above, Hanuman soared with the Garuda spirits, scouting ahead and warning of ambushes. His acrobatics and might allowed him to carry supplies, rescue warriors swept by currents, and launch aerial attacks against enemies attempting to block the crossing. The unity of the army, the strength of the princes, and the vigilance of their allies ensured that, despite the river's challenges, the army advanced toward the fortress. Upon reaching the opposite bank, Preah Ream organized his forces for a direct assault on the central towers of Lanka. Preah Ream, furious at their advance, unleashed a legion of shadow ogres and fire-breathing demons. The clash was thunderous. The cries of soldiers, the roar of monkeys, the screech of Garudas, and the hiss of Naga serpents blending into a cacophony that echoed through the forests and mountains. Sita, observing from her prison, recognized the courage of her people and felt hope rekindled in her heart. She began to chant sacred mantras, weakening the enchantments binding her, drawing strength from her faith and devotion. Her prayers intertwined with the efforts of Preah Ream, creating a harmony of light and virtue that countered Krung Reap's dark sorcery. The young princes faced their greatest personal trials yet. Preah Vikara confronted illusions of failing to save his father, and the kingdom, learning that resolve and focus were as essential as skill in battle. Preah Chandara faced a wall of fire conjured by the sorcerers, testing his bravery and endurance. Preah Surya navigated a labyrinth of magical traps designed to separate him from his brothers, discovering that ingenuity and trust in others were his greatest weapons. As the army pressed forward, Hanuman leaped into the fortress walls, tearing down barriers and creating paths for the soldiers. Preah Ream and his sons followed, combining their strength, skill, and wisdom. Finally, within the inner tower of Lanka, Preah Ream confronted Krung Reap directly. The Demon King's 10 heads roared in fury, but the prince's arrows, glowing with divine energy, struck true, shattering the dark enchantments surrounding the princess. With a final act of courage, Preah Vikara, Preah Chandara, and Preah Surya fought side by side to subdue the remaining demons within the fortress, demonstrating that unity, valor, and dharma could overcome even the most overwhelming darkness. Sita was freed, her presence restoring hope and joy to the army of Ayodhya. Her embrace of Preah Ream symbolized the victory of light over shadow, of virtue over malice. The crossing of the Mekong and the liberation of Sita became a celebrated tale throughout the Khmer lands. The people of Ayodhya rejoiced, honoring not only the heroism of Preah Ream and his allies, but the enduring power of faith, courage, and unity. The young princes had proven themselves, and the bonds forged between humans, monkeys, Garudas, and Naga serpents grew stronger, laying the foundation for future victories. As the sun set over the Mekong, golden light reflecting on the river's surface, Preah Ream addressed his companions. "Tonight, we have crossed not only rivers, but the trials of our hearts. The forces of darkness remain, but together we will face them, guided by courage, wisdom, and dharma." And so, the journey continued, deeper into the lands controlled by Krung Reap, where the epic struggle between light and darkness, virtue and vice, would reach even greater trials, shaping the destiny of Cambodia for generations to come. Chapter 6: The Battle in the Shadowed Temples. Beyond the Mekong and the forests of Ayodhya lay the ancient shadowed temples of Angkor, where Krung Reap had established a stronghold to regroup his forces. These temples, once sacred and filled with chants of monks and the fragrance of incense, now echoed with dark magic, shadows twisting around the stone spires, and monstrous creatures lurking in every corridor. The air was heavy with sorcery, and even the bravest warriors felt an unease creeping into their hearts. Preah Ream and his companions approached the temples cautiously. Hanuman, ever vigilant, leaped from treetop to treetop, scouting ahead, while Garuda spirits circled above, alerting the army to potential ambushes. The Naga serpents swam silently in the rivers surrounding the temple complex, ready to strike at any attempt by demons to escape or counterattack. The young princes, Preah Vikara, Preah Chandara, and Preah Surya, prepared themselves for trials that would test not only their strength, but their wisdom, courage, and devotion to dharma. The first challenge was the Hall of Illusions, a vast corridor lined with statues of demons and gods alike. Krung Repi's sorcerers had imbued these statues with dark magic, causing them to move, attack, and whisper lies to those who entered. Soldiers faltered as shadows distorted reality, creating visions of lost comrades and burning cities. Preah Ream, with calm authority, guided his army. Do not be swayed by what you see. Focus on dharma and truth. Fear is the weapon of darkness. Unity and courage are our shield. The princes faced their individual trials within the hall. Preah Vikara confronted visions of his family in peril, learning that fear must be acknowledged, but not allowed to dictate action. Preah Chandara was surrounded by illusions of monstrous beasts, testing his endurance and bravery, while Preah Surya had to solve riddles posed by enchanted statues, realizing that intellect and discernment are as vital as strength in battle. Together, the brothers learned the importance of courage, wisdom, and trust. Beyond the hall, the army entered the courtyard of shadows, where Krung Reap had gathered his elite warriors. Shadow ogres, fire-breathing demons, and spectral beasts poured forth, intent on stopping Preah Ream and his companions. The battle erupted with thunderous roars, arrows lit the air, swords clashed with shields, and monkeys and garudas moved in precise coordination to disrupt the enemy formations. Hanuman, leaping across the temple roofs, tore through ranks of demons, his roar echoing like thunder. Preah Ream fired arrows imbued with divine energy, each strike scattering shadows and breaking enchantments. Preah Lak lead soldiers in precise maneuvers, while the young princes displayed growing mastery of their weapons, tactics, and courage. Every attack, every defense, was guided not only by skill, but by virtue, a force more powerful than any dark magic. Krung Reap, enraged by the progress of the army, unleashed Maha-Raksa, a sorcerer demon of immense power. Waves of dark energy swept across the courtyard, twisting stone and earth, and creating illusions of despair. Soldiers and allies were tested as never before. Fear and doubt threatened to break their morale. Yet Preah Ream, steadfast in dharma, inspired courage. Stand firm. We fight not only for victory, but for the light of our people and the preservation of dharma. Preah Vikara, Preah Chandara, and Preah Surya coordinated a counterattack, each using their unique skills. Preah Vikara struck down sorcerers with precise arrows. Preah Chandara engaged the shadow ogres in hand-to-hand combat. And Preah Surya devised strategies that exploited the enemy's weaknesses. Hanuman disrupted the enemy lines, creating openings for soldiers and allies to advance. Together, their unity became the greatest weapon against the darkness. The battle reached its climax when Preah Ream confronted Krung Reap and Maha-Raksa atop the highest temple tower. Krung Reap's 10 heads twisted in fury, casting spells of fire, shadow, and illusion. Preah Ream, guided by the blessings of the gods and his unwavering devotion to dharma, fired arrows that pierced through the darkness, breaking the enchantments and scattering the demons below. Maha-Raksa, sensing defeat, attempted a final desperate spell, but the combined strength of the princes, Hanuman, and their allies shattered his magic. With the elite forces defeated and the temple corridors cleared, the army of Ayodhya established a stronghold within the shadowed temples. The survivors tended to the wounded, repaired damaged structures, and reinforced defenses, knowing that Krung Reap's wrath would not end easily. The princes, now seasoned through trials of courage, strategy, and virtue, reflected on the lessons of the battle. True heroism is forged in adversity, guided by dharma, and strengthened by unity. Preah Ream addressed his companions as the sun set over Angkor's spires. We have faced illusions, shadows, and the fiercest of demons. Yet we endure because we are guided by dharma and bound by loyalty. This temple, once a place of darkness, now stands as a beacon of hope. Let us remain vigilant, for our journey is far from over, and the trials ahead will demand even greater courage and wisdom. Thus concluded the battle in the shadowed temples, a defining chapter in the epic of Preah Ream. It was a story of valor, unity, and divine guidance, echoing through the forests and rivers of Cambodia. A testament that virtue and courage could overcome even the darkest sorcery. The epic of Ramakien continued, each victory a step toward the ultimate triumph of light over shadow. Chapter 7: The Flight of the Monkey Army and the Pursuit of Preah Ream after the victory in the shadowed temples of Angkor. Preah Ream and his allies knew that their battle against Preah Ream was far from complete. The Demon King, enraged by the defeats at Lanka and within the temple stronghold, retreated into the dense forests and hidden valleys of Cambodia, seeking to regroup his forces and summon greater powers from the dark realms. Preah Ream understood that in order to secure lasting peace for Ayodhya, they had to pursue him relentlessly, leaving no sanctuary for darkness to recover. The white monkey general, Hanuman, leaped high into the treetops, surveying the forest with sharp eyes. The Demon King is cunning, he warned, and the paths ahead are filled with traps, illusions, and sorcery. But with courage and dharma, we will prevail. His troop of monkeys, agile and fierce, prepared to act as scouts, messengers, and warriors, ensuring that no ambush could catch the army unawares. The princes, Preah Vikara, Preah Chandara, and Preah Surya, rode at the forefront alongside their father. The journey was arduous. The Mekong tributaries had turned into labyrinths of winding streams and swamps. The jungle canopy blocked sunlight, and the cries of nocturnal beasts echoed through the dense foliage, testing the courage of even the bravest warriors. Yet every challenge reinforced the unity of the army and the determination of the princes to follow dharma in the pursuit of justice. As they advanced, Preah Ream unleashed his dark magic, sending phantom armies to block the paths. Shadow warriors appeared from beneath moss-covered roots, their forms shifting with the wind. And monstrous spirits rose from the swamps, howling and lashing at the army with enchanted limbs. Preah Ream raised his bow, divine arrows piercing the darkness, while Preah coordinated the human soldiers and mystical allies, combining their efforts with Hanuman's troop in precise maneuvers. The young princes faced trials unlike any they had known. Preah Vikara was challenged by illusions of betrayal among his own soldiers, learning the value of trust and discernment. Preah Chandara confronted visions of the city burning and their people suffering, testing his patience and steadfastness. Preah Surya encountered riddles of strategy and labyrinthine passages that sought to separate him from the army, teaching him the importance of ingenuity and teamwork. Each trial strengthened them, shaping their growth as future leaders of Ayodhya. Along the way, the army encountered mystical allies who aided the pursuit. Garuda spirits soared overhead, carrying messages and launching attacks against hidden demon patrols. Naga serpents protected river crossings, preventing ambushes and shielding the army from magical traps. Even the citizens of Ayodhya, having recovered from previous battles, joined in providing provisions, intelligence, and unwavering support. The unity of men, gods, and mystical creatures demonstrated that the strength of Ayodhya lay not in one hero, but in collective courage and virtue. After several days of pursuit, the army reached the forest of eternal mist, a treacherous region where the land itself seemed alive with dark magic. Mist rose from the swampy floor, creating illusions of monsters, cliffs, and rivers that did not exist. Krung Reap's scouts, disguised as trees and stones, attempted to lure the army into deadly traps. But Hanuman, with his keen senses, and Preah Ream, guided by Dharma, led the forces safely through. The princes applied all they had learned: courage, wisdom, and discernment, navigating the illusions with steadfast hearts. The army finally discovered the hidden lair of Krung Reap, a fortress carved into cliffs above a roaring waterfall. From its blackened towers, dark spells emanated, attempting to break the morale of Ayodhya's allies. Yet the army pressed forward, undeterred. Preah Ream addressed his companions. "This is the moment we have prepared for. Krung Reap has fled from our light before, but he will find no refuge here. Together, guided by Dharma, we will confront him and end his tyranny." The ensuing battle was fierce and relentless. Krung Reap's shadow warriors, ogres, and fire-breathing demons fought with desperation, knowing their master's wrath demanded victory. The white monkeys leaped and swung through the trees. Garuda spirits dove from above, and Naga serpents struck with crushing power in the rivers below. Preah Ream and his sons faced the Demon King's most powerful champions, combining skill, strategy, and virtue in every strike. At the climax, Preah Ream and Hanuman led a daring assault on the fortress's main gate, breaking through Krung Reap's defenses. The young princes fought side by side, demonstrating bravery and leadership, as their arrows, swords, and cunning disrupted the enemy formations. Krung Reap, enraged and desperate, unleashed his final dark magic, but the unity and courage of Ayodhya's forces countered every spell. By nightfall, Krung Reap's forces were scattered, his dark magic weakened, and the fortress of the Forest of Eternal Mist lay open. Though the Demon King had escaped once more, his power had been diminished, and the army of Ayodhya had proven that courage, unity, and Dharma could overcome even the most formidable darkness. As the army rested under the canopy of ancient trees, Preah Ream spoke to his companions. "We have pursued darkness through forests and mist, through fear and illusion, and yet we remain steadfast. Our journey is not yet complete, but the path is clear. Virtue, courage, and unity will guide us to the ultimate victory." The flight of the monkey army and the relentless pursuit of Krung Reap became a celebrated chapter in the epic of Remker, a testament to courage, loyalty, and the unwavering power of Dharma. The story of this journey would be sung for generations, inspiring all who believed in the triumph of light over darkness, of virtue over malice, in the mystical lands of Cambodia. Chapter 8: The Clash at the Waterfall Fortress. Deep within the lush Cambodian jungles, atop cliffs where the roar of cascading waters echoed like thunder, lay Krung Reap's waterfall fortress. Dark stones glistened with moss and enchanted magic, and the mist rising from the falls created illusions of vast armies and monstrous beasts. The fortress was a masterwork of sorcery and cunning, designed to intimidate and trap any who dared approach. Preah Ream and his allies knew that conquering this stronghold would be crucial in their quest to defeat the Demon King once and for all. The army of Ayodhya gathered at the base of the cliffs. Hanuman leaped from treetop to treetop, scouting the best paths for the forces of monkeys, soldiers, and mystical allies. Garuda spirits circled above, their golden feathers glinting in the sunlight, ready to strike at Krung Reap's sentries. Naga serpents swam through the roaring waters below, prepared to block any escape or reinforcement by the Demon King. Preah Ream, his bow glowing with divine energy, addressed the army. This fortress is not merely stone and water. It is a test of courage, strategy, and the strength of our hearts. Stand firm, for the light of Dharma guides us. The first challenge arose as the army began the ascent. The cliff paths were narrow, slick with mist, and illusions made them seem infinitely longer. Shadow warriors sprang from hidden ledges, their weapons glinting, attempting to push the soldiers into the churning waters below. Preah Vikara and Preah Chandara led the front lines, fighting skillfully to protect the advancing troops, while Preah Surya identified and dismantled traps set by Krung Reap's sorcerers. Hanuman, leaping between trees and rocks, carried messages and rescued soldiers who were trapped or wounded, his strength and courage inspiring all around him. At the first gate of the fortress, the army faced a massive contingent of fire-breathing ogres and serpent demons, their scales like molten metal and eyes glowing with malice. The clash was thunderous. Arrows of divine light met flames, and shadow swords clashed against clawed arms, and the cries of warriors, monkeys, and mystical creatures filled the jungle. Preah Ream's leadership was crucial. He coordinated attacks with precision, ensuring that the enemy could not exploit weaknesses in their formation. The young princes faced trials that were as much of the heart as of combat. Preah Vikara confronted illusions of his family being captured again, testing his focus and resolve. Preah Chandara faced relentless waves of ogres, learning the importance of endurance, courage, and protecting others even when exhausted. Preah Surya navigated mazes of magical barriers and shifting terrain, relying on intellect, observation, and the guidance of allies. These trials strengthened their skill, wisdom, and unity with the army. High above, the Garuda spirits struck from the sky, disrupting enemy formations and carrying messages to coordinate the ground forces. Naga serpents surged through hidden waterways, ambushing any reinforcements Krung Reap attempted to send. Hanuman led daring strikes, leaping into enemy ranks, destroying fortifications, and inspiring soldiers to push forward. Every attack, every maneuver, reflected the unity of men, mystical beings, and the principles of Dharma guiding them all. As the army breached the inner courtyard, Krung Reap emerged atop the fortress, his 10 heads twisting in fury, exhaling smoke and dark energy. Behind him, Maharaksa, his most powerful sorcerer, conjured spells to immobilize the advancing heroes. Preah Ream, drawing upon divine blessings, fired arrows that pierced the illusions, scattering dark magic. Preah Lak led the soldiers against the sorcerers, while the princes coordinated attacks against the Demon King's elite warriors. Hanuman leaped through the air, smashing walls and creating openings for soldiers and allies to advance. The final confrontation took place at the edge of the waterfall. Krung Reap, roaring in anger, unleashed a torrent of dark energy, attempting to sweep Preah Ream and his companions into the depths below. But united, the army countered his power. Arrows, imbued with Dharma, struck his 10 heads. Hanuman disrupted his magical defenses, and the princes fought courageously at every angle. Krung Reap's power waned as Preah Ream's leadership, the princes' skill, and the strength of their allies overcame the Demon King's dark sorcery. By nightfall, the waterfall fortress was seized. The army of Ayodhya, though exhausted, stood triumphant. Krung Reap had escaped once more, retreating into the deepest shadows of Cambodia. But his forces were shattered, and his dark enchantments broken. The trials of the cliffs, the illusions, and the relentless battle had strengthened the bonds between humans, monkeys, Garudas, and Naga serpents, proving that courage, unity, and dharma could overcome the greatest of obstacles. Preah Ream addressed his companions as the moonlight reflected off the cascading waters. We have faced the fortress of darkness and emerged victorious. Yet the path remains, and the final trials await. Stand firm, for light and virtue guide our journey, and together, Ayodhya's courage will prevail. Thus, the clash at the waterfall fortress became a defining legend in the epic of Rimker, a tale of bravery, strategy, and unwavering devotion to Dharma. The story of this victory would echo through the forests, rivers, and temples of Cambodia, inspiring generations to come with the triumph of light over darkness and virtue over malice. Chapter 9: The Capture of Krung Reap and the Siege of the Shadowed Realm. After the hard-fought victory at the waterfall fortress, Preah Ream and his allies knew that the final confrontation with Krung Reap, the 10-headed Demon King, was imminent. Though weakened, the Demon King had fled to the Shadowed Realm, a mystical valley hidden deep within the Cambodian jungles, shrouded in eternal darkness and guarded by enchanted rivers, treacherous cliffs, and spirits bound by dark magic. To secure peace for Ayodhya, Preah Ream resolved to pursue him relentlessly, leaving no stone unturned in their quest to end his tyranny. The army of Ayodhya prepared carefully for this final campaign. Hanuman led the monkeys in reconnaissance, bounding from treetops and rocky outcrops, scouting paths and identifying traps. Garuda spirits soared above, their sharp eyes cutting through the perpetual mist of the shadowed realm. Naga serpents patrolled rivers and streams, ready to strike at any demon attempting escape or reinforcements. Preah Ream's sons, Preah Vikara, Preah Chandara, and Preah Surya, rode at the forefront alongside their father, their minds sharpened by the trials they had endured. As the army entered the shadowed realm, an eerie silence fell. The trees were twisted and gnarled, the river waters dark and thick with sorcery, and the winds whispered threats of despair into the minds of all who passed. Soldiers faltered, haunted by illusions of defeat and betrayal. Preah Ream, standing tall, called upon the strength of Dharma to steady their hearts. Do not yield to fear. This is the test of our courage, wisdom, and virtue. United, we shall overcome the darkness. The first trial in the shadowed realm was the labyrinth of eternal night, a maze of twisted paths, illusions, and phantom enemies. Soldiers and allies found themselves disoriented, stepping into traps or encountering apparitions that sought to break their morale. Preah Vikara confronted visions of Ayodhya destroyed and his family in peril, learning the importance of courage, guided by reason. Preah Chandara faced illusions of endless combat, testing his endurance and fortitude. Preah Surya encountered riddles and traps that required ingenuity and teamwork to navigate. Guided by their father and Hanuman, the princes overcame these trials, proving the strength of unity and virtue. At the heart of the labyrinth, the army discovered the shadowed fortress, Preah Ream's last bastion. Dark magic radiated from its towers, making the air thick with malevolence. Shadow, ogres, sorcerers, and monstrous beasts surged forth to defend their master, and a thunderous battle erupted. The cries of warriors, monkeys, and mystical allies mingled with the roar of the river and the hiss of Naga serpents. Preah Ream and his sons fought at the forefront, striking down enemies with precision, while Hanuman and the monkey army disrupted the demon ranks with acrobatic attacks. Preah Ream, enraged at the audacity of the army, emerged atop the fortress walls, his 10 heads twisting and hissing, exhaling waves of dark energy. Maharaksa, his most powerful sorcerer, conjured illusions of burning cities and falling allies, attempting to crush the army's morale. Preah Ream, with divine arrows, shattered these illusions, each shot guided by the gods and the unwavering faith of his companions. The young princes demonstrated their growth through courage, strategy, and unity. Preah Vikara coordinated archers to strike with lethal precision. Preah Chandra engaged the fiercest demons in direct combat, and Preah Surya devised strategies to outmaneuver Preah Ream's forces. Hanuman led the final charge, leaping onto the fortress walls and clearing paths for the army. The combined strength of humans, monkeys, Garudas, and Naga serpents overwhelmed Preah Ream's defenders. Finally, Preah Ream confronted Preah Ream directly within the inner sanctum of the fortress. The Demon King unleashed his most powerful dark magic, attempting to crush Preah Ream with shadows, fire, and illusion. Yet Preah Ream, strengthened by dharma and the courage of his allies, struck with arrows infused with divine energy. Each head of Preah Ream was pierced in turn, weakening the Demon King until he could no longer resist. Bound by magical chains, forged by the priests, and guided by the unity of the army, Preah Ream was finally captured. With Preah Ream imprisoned, the army turned its attention to securing the Shadowed Realm. Soldiers destroyed remaining fortifications. Mystical allies purged lingering dark magic, and the land slowly began to return to its natural beauty. Rivers cleared, forests regrew, and the whispers of despair faded into silence. The Shadowed Realm, once a domain of darkness, became a symbol of triumph and the enduring power of virtue. Preah Ream addressed his companions. The forces of darkness have been vanquished, not by strength alone, but by courage, unity, and unwavering devotion to dharma. Let this victory remind us that no shadow can withstand the light of virtue, and no tyrant can endure the strength of the righteous heart. Thus, the capture of Preah Ream and the siege of the Shadowed Realm marked a turning point in the epic of Ramakien. The story of courage, unity, and divine guidance spread across the lands of Cambodia, a testament to the triumph of light over darkness and virtue over malice. The epic journey continued with the promise of restoration, justice, and the enduring legacy of Ayodhya's heroes. Chapter 10: The Restoration of Ayodhya and the Festival of Light. With Preah Ream captured and the Shadowed Realm secured, Preah Ream and his allies turned their attention to Ayodhya, a kingdom scarred by war yet resilient in spirit. Villages had been burned, forests scarred, and rivers blocked by the debris of battles. But the hearts of the people remained steadfast. Preah Ream knew that the kingdom's restoration would require not only rebuilding its physical structures, but also rekindling the spirit of hope and virtue that had guided them through the darkest times. The army returned triumphantly, accompanied by Hanuman and his troop of monkeys, Garuda spirits, and Naga serpents. Their presence reminded the citizens that Ayodhya's strength lay not only in human courage, but in the unity of mystical and mortal allies. Preah Vikara, Preah Chandara, and Preah Surya rode alongside their father, their courage and wisdom having grown through countless trials. Their leadership inspired the people, showing that the next generation was ready to uphold dharma and justice. Rebuilding began immediately. Soldiers cleared the forests of debris, villagers repaired homes and temples, and priests cleansed the land of lingering dark magic. The rivers were freed from obstruction, and the jungles began to flourish once more. Preah Ream oversaw the efforts personally, ensuring that every village and temple was restored to its former glory. His guidance combined justice with compassion, showing that true leadership nurtures both land and people. As the kingdom recovered, Preah Ream decreed the Festival of Light, a celebration to honor the victory over darkness and to commemorate the unity of all beings who had fought for Ayodhya. Lanterns were hung from temple spires, fires were lit along riverbanks, and prayers of gratitude filled the air. Citizens, soldiers, and mystical allies gathered together, offering thanks for courage, wisdom, and dharma. The festival symbolized not only the defeat of Preah Ream, but also the triumph of virtue, hope, and cooperation. The young princes played central roles in the festival, demonstrating the qualities they had learned through their journeys. Preah Vikara led a ceremonial procession of archers, honoring those who had fallen in battle. Preah Chandara guided the citizens in dances and martial demonstrations, showcasing the valor and skill that had been cultivated through the trials. Preah Surya organized riddles and games of strategy for the children and young warriors, emphasizing wisdom, observation, and cleverness as crucial virtues for the future. Hanuman, perched atop the temple spires, roared in celebration, a signal to the Garuda spirits and Naga serpents to join in the festivities. The mystical allies demonstrated their powers playfully, diving through streams, flying above the lantern-lit skies, and leaping across rooftops. The harmony of humans and mystical creatures symbolized the unity that had been essential in overcoming the darkness of Preah Ream's reign. Preah Ream addressed the gathered citizens and allies. Tonight, we celebrate not only victory, but the strength of dharma, courage, and unity. Ayodhya has endured, and through each trial, we have proven that the light of virtue cannot be extinguished. Let this festival remind us that when hearts are steadfast and courage guides our actions, no darkness can prevail. Stories of bravery and wisdom were recounted throughout the festival. Tales of the Mekong crossing, the siege of Lanka, and the battles in shadowed temples were shared by elders, inspiring the younger generation to uphold the values that had restored Ayodhya. The princes, now recognized as heroes in their own right, were celebrated not only for their strength, but for the courage, wisdom, and compassion that had guided them through peril. As lanterns floated along the rivers and fires blazed across temple rooftops, Preah Ream reflected on the journey. The kingdom had faced trials that tested hearts and spirits, yet the unity of humans, monkeys, Garudas, and Naga serpents had prevailed. The Festival of Light was not merely a celebration of victory, but a testament to the enduring power of courage, dharma, and the bonds forged in adversity. Thus, Ayodhya was restored, the kingdom's spirit rekindled, and its people united more strongly than ever. The festival became an annual tradition, a reminder that light triumphs over darkness, and that virtue, courage, and unity are the foundations of a prosperous and just kingdom. The epic of Ramakien continued, with the hero's legacy inspiring generations to come. Chapter 11. The final confrontation in the celestial realm, with Ayodhya restored, and the festival of light celebrated across the kingdom. Preah Ream knew that Cambodian Reap's dark influence, though weakened, was not entirely extinguished. The demon king, desperate and cunning, had fled to the celestial realm, a mystical plane where gods and spirits held dominion over the elements, seeking to harness forbidden powers that could make him invincible. Preah Ream understood that this would be the ultimate trial, a battle that would test not only strength but the very essence of dharma itself. The army of Ayodhya prepared meticulously. Garuda spirits, their wings glinting with divine light, soared into the skies to guide the army's ascent into the celestial realm. Hanuman and his troop of white monkeys led the way, their agility allowing them to navigate treacherous clouds and shifting terrains that bridged the mortal and celestial worlds. Naga serpents, shimmering with celestial energy, guarded the rivers and pools that appeared in the mystical realm, ensuring safe passage for soldiers and allies. The young princes, Preah Vikara, Preah Chandara, and Preah Surya, now seasoned from countless battles, stood ready alongside their father. They had grown in courage, wisdom, and unity, each embodying the lessons learned from the trials in forests, rivers, and shadowed temples. Preah Ream addressed them solemnly. This is the realm where mortal courage meets divine power. We fight not only to defeat Cambodian Reap, but to uphold dharma and protect the balance of the universe. Stand firm, for hearts guided by virtue are stronger than the mightiest sorcery. As they entered the celestial realm, the sky shimmered with hues of gold and violet, the clouds forming shifting bridges over vast chasms of radiant energy. Cambodian Reap awaited them atop a throne of blackened clouds, his 10 heads exuding fury and darkness. Beside him stood Maharaksa, whose magic now drew upon celestial forces, twisting light into shadow and creating illusions that distorted reality. The air crackled with tension, charged with both divine and demonic energies. The first phase of the battle tested the army's courage and unity. Cambodian Reap sent forth celestial shadows, illusions of gods and spirits, wielding immense power, attempting to demoralize the army. Preah Vikara, confronting visions of his father defeated and the kingdom lost, drew upon his inner courage, realizing that dharma and truth could pierce even the most convincing illusions. Preah Chandara faced illusions of endless combat, learning patience and endurance in the face of overwhelming odds. Preah Surya navigated shifting pathways of radiant energy and false bridges, demonstrating ingenuity and reliance on allies to stay on course. Hanuman led the charge against the celestial shadows, leaping across clouds, dismantling magical traps, and rallying soldiers who wavered under the strain of the illusions. Garuda spirits swooped from the heavens, scattering the dark energy and striking at Cambodian Reap's forces from above. Naga serpents formed protective barriers in the pools of energy below, preventing soldiers from falling into the deadly voids. The army's unity and courage allowed them to advance, despite the celestial sorcery that sought to break their resolve. The final confrontation occurred upon the highest cloud peak, where Cambodian Reap and Maharaksa had drawn their full power. The Demon King unleashed a torrent of dark energy, twisting the very elements of the celestial realm, lightning, wind, and fire, combined in chaotic fury. Preah Ream, drawing upon the blessings of the Khmer gods and his unwavering devotion to dharma, countered with arrows of divine light, each strike piercing the darkness and weakening Krung Reap's magic. The princes fought with exceptional valor. Preah Vikara struck with precise arrows that disrupted the sorcerer's enchantments. Preah Chandara engaged the strongest shadow warriors in fierce combat, while Preah Surya devised tactics to exploit gaps in the Demon King's defense. Hanuman, displaying unparalleled agility and strength, confronted Krung Reap's remaining heads, holding the Demon King at bay and allowing the princes and soldiers to coordinate their attacks. At the climax, Preah Ream, guided by the collective courage and unity of his allies, fired a final arrow imbued with divine energy, striking the central head of Krung Reap. The Demon King howled, his 10 heads writhing in agony as Maharaxa's spells collapsed upon themselves. Krung Reap's powers shattered, and he was bound in celestial chains forged by the gods themselves, ensuring that he could never again threaten Ayodhya or the mortal realm. The celestial realm, once threatened by darkness, was restored to harmony. Rivers of radiant energy flowed freely, clouds returned to their serene patterns, and the gods themselves blessed the heroes of Ayodhya for their courage, unity, and unwavering devotion to dharma. Preah Ream, his sons, Hanuman, and their allies stood triumphant, a living testament to the power of virtue and the strength of the righteous heart. Preah Ream addressed the gathered celestial beings and his companions. Tonight, we have proven that no darkness, no matter how great, can endure against courage, unity, and dharma. Let this victory remind all worlds that virtue, loyalty, and courage are eternal, and that the bonds forged in adversity will illuminate even the darkest realms. Thus concluded the final confrontation in the celestial realm, a defining chapter in the epic of Ramakien. The tale of bravery, wisdom, and divine guidance would echo across the mortal and celestial worlds, a lasting testament to the triumph of light over darkness, virtue over malice, and courage over despair. Chapter 12. The Coronation of Preah Ream and the Eternal Peace of Ayodhya. With Krung Reap defeated and the celestial realm restored, Preah Ream returned to Ayodhya, the kingdom bathed in the golden light of dawn. The people had rebuilt their homes and temples, and the rivers and forests had regained their natural beauty. Peace had been restored, but the trials of the past had left a mark. The people of Ayodhya now understood the true power of courage, unity, and dharma. Preah Ream, having led them through peril and darkness, was recognized not merely as a warrior, but as a wise and virtuous leader, deserving of the crown and the eternal trust of his people. The coronation was to be held at the heart of Ayodhya, in the grand temple where kings had been crowned for generations. The air was alive with celebration. Lanterns floated along the rivers, monks chanted blessings, and citizens adorned themselves in vibrant garments. Garuda spirits soared above, their wings shimmering with divine light, while Naga serpents swirled gracefully in the rivers below, honoring the return of the kingdom's rightful protector. Hanuman led his troop of monkeys through ceremonial dances and acrobatics, symbolizing the unity of humans and mystical allies that had been so vital to Ayodhya's survival. Preah Vikara, Preah Chandara, and Preah Surya stood proudly beside their father, now recognized not only as heroes but as the pillars of the future of Ayodhya. Each had grown from the trials they faced, their courage tested in battle, their wisdom honed through strategy, and their virtues strengthened by dharma. Together, they represented the hope of a kingdom that would endure for generations. The coronation ceremony began with the blessing of the priests, invoking the protection and guidance of the gods who had watched over Ayodhya. Preah Ream knelt before the altar, receiving the ceremonial crown and sacred symbols of kingship. As he rose, the crowd erupted in joyous celebration, their cheers echoing across the riverbanks and forests. Lanterns floated into the sky, and the light of thousands of candles illuminated the temple, symbolizing the triumph of light over darkness. Preah Ream addressed his people, his voice strong and compassionate. Today, Ayodhya is not only restored in its cities and temples, but in its heart and spirit. The darkness that threatened our land has been defeated, not by one man alone, but by the courage, unity, and virtue of all. Let this day remind us that dharma, justice, and compassion are the foundations of our kingdom, and that together we shall endure any trial that comes our way. The festival of coronation followed, uniting humans, monkeys, Garudas, and Naga serpents in joyous celebration. Dances, music, and stories recounted the epic journey, the Mekong crossing, the battles in shadowed temples, the pursuit of Preah Ream, and the final confrontation in the celestial realm. Children listened with wide eyes, inspired by tales of bravery, wisdom, and unity, understanding that the future of Ayodhya rested on the virtues of courage, loyalty, and dharma. As the celebrations continued, Preah Ream visited the sites of previous battles, offering prayers for those who had fallen and giving thanks for the allies who had stood steadfast by his side. Hanuman and the mystical creatures joined him, sharing in the gratitude and joy of the restored kingdom. Preah Ream reflected on the lessons learned, that true power lies not in domination but in protection, not in fear but in courage, and not in isolation but in unity. The young princes, now fully recognized as heirs and leaders in their own right, pledged to uphold the values that had guided their father: courage, wisdom, and virtue. They would lead Ayodhya with honor, ensuring that the kingdom remained a beacon of light and justice in a world often threatened by darkness. In the evening, as the sun set over the rivers and temples, a sense of eternal peace settled over Ayodhya. The kingdom had endured trials of fire, shadow, and celestial magic, emerging stronger and more united than ever. Preah Ream, crowned and revered, stood as a symbol of hope and virtue, a king whose legacy would echo for generations. The epic of Reamker, with its tales of courage, unity, and dharma, had reached its glorious conclusion, leaving behind a world forever changed by the triumph of light over darkness. Thus, Ayodhya entered an era of eternal peace, the story of Preah Ream and his companions becoming a timeless legend in Cambodia, a celebration of courage, virtue, and the enduring power of dharma. The rivers flowed gently, the forests thrived, and the light of Ayodhya shone bright, a testament to the enduring strength of unity and righteousness.